In the game of life, the bold are guided by two unapologetic groups: the unmuters who speak their truth, and the rebels who live life on their own terms. These are their stories. And we are recording. Welcome to episode 1 of Unmute with Priya. Wait, sound effects? Yay! And I could not be here for my first episode without my partner in crime. Here is my cousin Saroja. We have known each other since we were 6 and 7, respectively, and now we're close to 50, so we've been through it. And she has definitely been part of the journey of what Unmute with Priya is all about. And I think both of us can definitely speak to what unmuting is all about with our own stories.
Yes.
I am so excited that you're here with me for episode 1. And this is actually taking away my nervousness about recording, doing a video, because I'm here with you. This is like our daily conversation.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much for having me here. It's truly an honor to be in this part of your journey with you after having shared so many experiences together over our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, we wake up in the morning and, well, now I'm changing it because I'm waking up and meditating instead of waking up and calling Saroja. But I'd say, especially for the past, 7 years, we've been calling each other in the morning.
Yeah.
We have our coffee talk. And I would say these past 7 years in particular have been about processing our life, processing what we thought to be true, and then also as we're entering this age, this midlife, or whether perimenopause, like
Right.
really questioning what we were meant to believe versus what is our truth, right?
Right, I agree. I think there comes a time in everyone's life where you experience various transitions and transformations. And I think that's part of our experience right now and something that we are eager to share because I think it's important for everyone to realize that they're not alone in the struggles or the triumphs or any of these kinds of changes.
Yeah. And Saroja and I are Asian Indian. Our family is from South India. The family's from the state of Tamil Nadu, so it's its own beast. As we talk about it more, and as we have more friends who are from different areas of India, we've come to realize that this particular state has got some I don't have a word for it.
Well, I think there's a lot of cultural, sometimes baggage, cultural limitations, and changes, differences that we have had to negotiate growing up in America. Because I do primarily identify as American, even though I'm of Indian heritage, and that's created some conflict. I think in terms of when we were growing up, how do we marry and manage these two very important but also very different aspects of our identity.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to this about what Unmute with Priya is all about. When with other webinars I've done, it really my through line comes back to I think it was 6. I think it was even before we came to this country, and I was so excited. I was innocent. I was a free child and playing, and I was so excited that my dad. I think I was home with my uncle, and excited that I heard him on the phone. My dad had gotten the job in America. We were moving, and I went out to tell my brother about it because to share the excitement. And my uncle, for whatever reason, I forgive him. He's got his own stuff. Everybody has their own stuff. Said, "Shut up."
Right.
I remember it to this day. And even though it was specific to that instance, I created a subconscious pattern that it was never safe to speak up. And then everything throughout my life amplified that. Like, if you speak up, you're going to get in trouble. If you speak up, you're going to get in
Problem.
trouble. And us growing up together in neighboring towns and just the stuff that we got in trouble for was
Right. Right.
ridiculous.
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 It was.
We didn't go
Right.
out drinking. We didn't sneak out. We didn't do anything. We
Yes.
were getting in
We're
trouble
good
for,
students.
yeah, but we were getting in trouble for
Yeah.
unmuting. So what that essentially did
Right.
to us is mute us, right?
Right. Right. I agree. And I think when you bring up your childhood incident of being told to shut up and then how that impacted you growing up, I think I also had a similar experience in that, I never saw my mother speaking up for herself or, in any situation. And I think as a child, you end up internalizing that. You don't even realize what you're internalizing. But I think I think that's what you really bring up is how that internalization of either being told to be quiet or having behavior modeled for you where you are, shown that you need to be silent, how that's impacted us as we've grown up.
Yeah. And I feel like, unmuting is not just about speaking up. And what it made us do, being muted at such an early age, both of
Mm-hmm.
us, what it made us do is
Right.
just accept the status quo. Just coast along life,
Right.
do the right thing, don't rock the boat, because if you rock the boat, you're going to get in trouble. I have to watch it because I'm ready to drop some F bombs, but yeah.
It's about do your part, do your duty, and it was always about make sure that you, Priya, or you, Saroja, are doing the job that you are supposed to be doing in all of this. And it was never about, well, wait a minute, like, is this actually helping me? Is this actually fulfilling me? As we progress.
But I think you and I have we've said this too, and this is the cool part about this is because as we've talked
Mhm.
for the last 7 years, really tried to understand what went on in our families, understand our dynamic.
Right.
It's like you can start to let go of the resentments and then not be so angry about it because I mean,
Well,
essentially for me, what I realized, my parents didn't know any better, and
right.
my parents are the
Right.
children
That's
of parents. And that
of
I
their
don't
parents.
know how far back it went. If it's from South India and that's conservative Hindu, like it,
Right.
if it was oppressive during my grandparents' time, I can only
Right.
imagine how much more oppressive it was. So
It was.
the cool thing about it is the unmuting starts with me, and
Right.
starts with
Right.
you, right?
Right. And I do think in some cases it's really that time, that temporal distance that allows you kind of the life experience and the perspective, right, to look back and say, oh, like, okay, that's why these things were happening. Because 20 years ago, I don't think I would have been able to look at my own nuclear family's dynamic in the same way. I agree with you. At that time, I didn't even understand why I necessarily felt angry or resentful. I just knew I felt that way. Um, but, again, with this time and with life experience and, this knowledge and perspective, I agree. I think it's helped to be able to put a lot of the people and events in perspective. And I think that does help you in a process of forgiving other people, forgiving yourself, right? Because just as you said, I think the most important thing is sometimes we're just acting, behaving, thinking in the best way we know how in that moment. But it's okay. And those are the things that we can, as we unmute, those are the things that can evolve and transform us.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's funny because I know that I have an awesome relationship with my family now, and
Mhm.
but mothers and daughters, and we can definitely get into it. And so
Right.
every so often, and it used to happen more frequently before in the past, but now maybe once a year there's just this blow up with my mom, and she won't even say anything to me. It's just there's this
Hmm.
dynamic, and I find myself saying, "Don't tell me to shut up," but she hasn't told me to shut up. It's like I'm
Right.
asserting like 48 years of
Yeah.
being muted, and projecting that
Yeah.
onto her. But that's the part of being like, I think as we talk about this, and I think for a lot of women, especially, a
Hmm.
lot of my clients are women, and I do have male clients too. But as you enter this midlife, it's not a crisis; it's an awakening. It's a really just like, this isn't working for me anymore. Like, no, I can't do
Right.
this. For
Right.
me specifically, what caused me to shift, um, because up until what was a I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, was a head injury, and that was my awakening, and that was this
Hmm.
thing to really force me to look at my life. It took,
Right.
from the time of the head injury, it's taken me 4 years to integrate. So the
Hmm.
version of myself right now that's talking to you is the most integrated version that I've been, and I'm going to continue
Right.
to evolve.
Right.
What are there any specific things that have really catapulted you into, like, is this really my life? What has it been for
Right.
you?
Right. No, I think I similarly had an event that happened in my life that forced me really first to look within myself. And I think for me, as I was thinking about doing this recording with you, part of the first step for unmuting for me was really just unmuting the voice in my head, because for so long there was this noise around me that was telling me, who I was, what I was supposed to be, what I should be doing, you know, that I'm condescending, I'm arrogant, I'm mean, I'm all of these things. And part of the first step for me was, well, wait a minute, am I really that? And then I was like, no, I'm not. And it was giving myself permission to say, no, I'm not all of these other things that other people are telling me I am. So the first part for me was just unmuting the voice in my mind and allowing it to say, um, actually, I am smart. I am, I can be valued. I can be honored. Like, my knowledge, my experience is important. And I can contribute positively. And then, I think the second part of the unmuting journey, which I think you've also experienced, is then projecting that new self to the outside world.
Yeah.
And I know that some of the conflict really has arisen from the resistance that you get from people around you, because you are trying to imprint a healthier, more productive pattern of behavior for yourself, and also hopefully, that would benefit the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this journey has given me those 1 or 2 seconds of pause that I can, before I'm about to like say something
Hmm.
that I might regret or that might hurt another person. That's a whole other conversation too, is
Hmm.
coasting along in life unconsciously versus what does it mean to be conscious. So now I have those couple of seconds that I can actually say, wait, what's your
Right.
intention with this? Do you need to do this right now? And it's just a couple of seconds, but um,
Right.
it definitely,
But the pause is so important.
the pause is amazing, right? I mean, so that you're just not reacting.
Right. It
I have
is. Sometimes
so
it's
many.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the key. And you've said this to me before. It's like thinking about responding versus reacting.
yeah,
And trying to be the responsive person versus the reactive person. We're never going to be perfect. It's okay. But, striving to be more responsive has been part of, I think, our unmuting journey.
yeah. And when I had the head injury, and right after that it's COVID, and so I just started.
Hmm.
I was a sponge to all this information. It was like people on Facebook. It was like they were speaking directly to me, and I have some amazing
Right.
teachers. Reagan Hillier, Juan Pablo Barahona, and then now I'm in this amazing community that just studies the teachings of Neville Goddard with under Elmer O. Locker Jr. And just from those three people alone, I've just understood what it means to be an observer. I'm always saying that to my clients.
Mhm.
I know that you and I talk about it. It's literally rather than leaning
Right.
into the situation, sit back and be like, interesting. Hmm,
Right.
interesting. And that just like that is literally running through my head 24/7. Interesting. But
Hmm.
that also gives me the space to not to respond like you said rather than react. Because when I
Right.
react, yeah, I'm unmuting, but the only person that it's affecting is me. I'm the one who loses sleep. I'm the one who has an anxiety pit in my stomach. I'm the one who
Right. Right.
gets a headache from it. So it's like it's this beautiful dance of navigating through in this new version of yourself.
It
Um,
is. It is.
yeah.
And I don't know if you also felt this, as you started this process, you talked about the anxiety pit in your stomach. And that was something that I felt was actually a little discomfort in myself, right? Because for so long we had been told to be silent, be a good girl. How many times did you hear that? Be a good girl.
I wasn't even told be a
And
good girl. It was assumed that you are a good girl. So I
you,
created these rules around what
or
it
you
means to be a good girl.
Right, right. Or you better, you're right. It was subconscious. Like, you better be a good girl
Yeah.
or else,
Or
dot, dot,
else.
dot. Right. And so I think as I think anyone starts their own process of transformation, it's okay that you feel a little discomfort because these are patterns of behavior that you are so used to. When you sit in dysfunction feels normal. And so as you're breaking those patterns, you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And it takes a lot of strength to begin this journey.
Yeah. It's like, so I do a lot of energy work. And so as you're describe
Hmm.
exactly what you're describing now, it's like when you make change, it just creates this extra tension. And I mean,
Right.
I'm not even getting physics. That's not my area. But like it just creates this extra tension that is so uncomfortable that you just
Right.
want to say, I don't want to go there. And let me just go
Right.
back to what's normal. Let me be complacent. Let me just
Right.
keep the peace because I can't do this. This is really tough for me. But it's almost
Hmm.
like pushing through that creates this like,
Right.
and then it
Opens
diffuses
up
the
a
energy.
whole
And
new.
oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, as one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if this has happened to you, is as I
Mhm.
unmute, it's almost like relationships. That's what's been a big one. The relationships that have
Right.
moved out of my life that
Hmm.
people don't resonate with what I'm doing, even though I'm just
Right.
kind of I'm being myself. And then the relationships
Hmm.
that come into my life, like there's this ebb and flow of relationships where that a couple of years ago was really tough for me. What have you noticed for
Hmm.
yourself as far as your shift?
Right, agreed. In some ways, like there are some relationships that you find, might drag you down more than lift you up. Um, One of the things I talk about even just with my own children, um, as they're through adolescence, right? Is, as we all know, that's a very tumultuous time for changes in relationships and friendships and things. And I just try and tell them, some of my strongest, closest, most aligned friendships have not come into my life until now, like within the last 10 years. I think our relationship is probably the one that's,
Yeah.
stuck, right? From, our childhood all the way through. But I agree. I think again, sometimes it's hard to let go of some relationships. Um, once you realize they're not serving you, because, it's not like the other person is a bad person or a mean person. It's just not aligned to who you are evolving into. Um, and so I think that that's definitely something to expect, really, as you unmute and as you evolve, is that the relationships around you are going to change. Doesn't mean that everything's going to disintegrate, but it's okay. It's okay for some of these changes to happen.
Yeah. That's a huge one. That it's okay for change to
Hmm.
happen. I mean, everything is you don't
Hmm.
want to be in a state of like everything is the same. Um, being open
Right.
to
Or have
what
that anxiety.
yeah, the anxiety. I mean, I hung on to things
Hmm.
that out of fear of what that change would
Right.
be, you know.
Hmm.
But once I let go of it
Right.
and let go of any expectation around it, you do come to a place of resolution within yourself that it's like you're not bad, I'm not bad. It's just
Right.
this is a play on
It just
energy.
is.
Yeah, it just is. That's like
It
the
just
thing. It
is.
just is.
Just
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point when you mention expectation, because that also was something that we grew up under,
Oh my
and is
God.
very
Yeah.
internalized, is these expectations, that are, some are reasonable, some are like unreasonable too, and being able to let go even of just expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
That was hard for me, right? Because I was like, I need to be perfect all the time. I have to be perfect. And it took me a long point to come to the idea like, it's okay if I'm just good enough today. Because good enough will still get me and the people who depend on me where we need to go.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be good enough for ourselves so that everybody, I mean, because otherwise then it becomes a big projection and other people
Hmm.
aren't doing things good enough. But really, it's just
Right.
every situation, every interaction is literally like a full length mirror being put in front of you to see, okay, what is this showing me? And that
Right.
Juan Pablo Barahona says that too. He's like, what is this situation? What is this relationship here to show me? And so um, it's like when I'm standing in front of somebody and I'm finding myself triggered, or maybe there's an old pattern that's resurfacing, I literally just allow like an energetic full length mirror to come in front of me, almost
Yeah.
something out of the Matrix. So maybe it is real.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, what's this showing me? Okay, this is showing me a part of myself that's there. And
Right.
I think what you bring up is amazing because in all the teachings too, we are perfect as we are. We're constantly evolving, like our humanness is human. Like we are just
Right.
being
It's
human.
okay.
There's no perfect human. So,
There isn't.
and these
Yeah.
relationships, these situations, everything flows into our life
Hmm.
to allow us to have this full human experience. And so,
Right.
you know, I'm really just feeling that now, just that you said that, how profound that is we are perfect as we are.
As
And
we are.
does that
Right.
mean that I'm going to say, nope, this is who I am, fold my arms? No, I commit to growth. I want to learn. I want to know how I can be better. That's me though. Um,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's also sometimes part of the conflict that you encounter as you unmute, is because unmuting is a commitment to growing, and growing doesn't end, right? Like,
Mhm.
yes, our physical growth has ended, but our mental, emotional, spiritual growth is happening constantly. And I agree with you. That's part of our humanity, is that we all have that capacity to continue growing. And I think that's what's really beautiful about this process. That's what it's shown me, about myself, is that I can grow and change, and I have been very resilient. That's one of the things that I realized in my unmuting, is that I'm actually resilient, and that was important. That was a strength that I didn't realize that I had, and I think that's something that, as I move forward in my life, that I can bring, to my children, to my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. When going back, rewinding just a little bit to the expectation. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's deep for me as well because we're Indian women. Expectation. I don't care how many
Right.
degrees I had or what job I had, the
Right.
expectation,
Or
there
where
was an
you're from.
ancestral expectation around marriage and children. And that didn't happen for me. And I had to go through this
Hmm.
period of deep mourning and grief that I wasn't going to have children. And I couldn't explain it to anyone.
Mm.
You know, like hearing people
Right.
say Happy Mother's Day, or we could be in a room and it was like everybody was getting Happy
Yeah.
Mother's Day, and then it would get to me and be like, "How are you?" I mean, it was just
Oh.
like punch in the stomach, and I had to get through
Yeah.
that grief to get to a place of resolution. That it's okay. That and just
Right.
exactly what you said. I am perfect as I am. Now this is my plan.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and and it's the
Well,
irony of it is like,
I followed.
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
No, well, I followed the path, right? Like, I got the degree, I trained as a physician. I got married. I had kids, and somehow that also still wasn't like good enough.
Yeah,
So it it's almost like that none of that matters, right?
nope,
Whether you follow the path or not following the path, that the burden of expectation is really, kind of what kills either of those experiences, because it's not just us as South Asian women, right, who have that burden of expectation. I feel like that's something that's universal to a lot of experiences, and there are plenty of women who have chosen not to have children, or it just hasn't happened. And I don't see their life experience as any less valuable, or any less fulfilling, as the path that I chose.
yeah, yeah. I think just from our conversation coming into integrating all these parts of ourselves and just coming into ourselves is what it's all about. Like you don't
Right.
know, like, and that's what I want this channel. I want to be able to support people because you don't know what it feels like to be in yourself until you actually get there. And when you're there, it's like the most amazing feeling. It's like
Hmm.
not
It
it's almost
is.
like
It
nothing
is.
matters because you are just aligned within yourself. Do you feel like you've reached that point that you know who you are?
Um, I think I'm still making my way there, honestly. Um, I think I think at this point in my journey, I have been able to kind of weed out the noise around me, and learn to pay more attention to that inner voice. But I still think I'm working on some of my other, identities and places, where I feel like my place is. What is my purpose
Yeah.
in this life? And uh, I will say that now that uncertainty doesn't scare me as much as I think it did 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. Um, I think that's the point where I am. Is I know I'm still growing. I know I'm still evolving. But what I feel like I'm doing every day when I wake up is I'm stepping into the best version of myself to date.
Yeah. I mean, that's that you just like killed the end of my show. That's amazing. that's that's a beautiful way to just kind of wrap this up. Part of Unmute with Priya. So for myself, with that head injury, it was a spiritual awakening for me. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
I being in New York years ago, and that was when the yoga scene was coming up. And I was just like, what is this? And I used to come up with the term spiritually la la, like that if you meditated, that made you more
Mm-hmm.
spiritual than another person. Or if you did a yoga pose, or if you went to yoga classes every day, that made you more spiritual. And what I've found for myself is a spiritual awakening is not necessarily that you're tapping into the outside of you beings that you can't see, all of that. It's really about coming into the truth of who you are. So that is what this channel is
Mm-hmm.
about too, is for people who are going through a spiritual awakening, because it's disruptive. And I feel like you had a
Right.
disruptive moment. You had a situation that was your awakening. And it may not have been a head injury, but
Mm-hmm.
it was its own thing. And so
It was.
as
Yeah.
we navigate through that, it's disruptive. Like I said with that analogy, that change is,
Right.
it's horrible. You're questioning everything. Everything that you knew to be true is in question. So as far
Mm-hmm.
as, and a lot of the tools that I use in my work are spiritual tools. So as far as spirituality, what
Right.
words do you have for the audience here that could support anybody who's on this journey?
Um, Spirituality, I think, is so it's so unique to each of us. It incorporates so much of our life experience. I think part of my spiritual journey has just been to not demonize certain things, right? So there's like all this bad stuff, or there's all this good stuff. There's just this stuff, and there can be beauty and value in any of those things. There is more gray than there is black and white.
Oh, I love that.
And so I think that's what spirituality has come to mean to me at this point in my life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, as we wrap up this episode, I would love to have you on again. Um, and we continue to have this
I'm here for you
conversation.
whenever you need me.
And I feel like we can be that support. We can be that voice for other Asian Indian women as well who have been raised outside of India and are struggling with that you I mean I love that you said that gray, but I feel like being raised in an Indian household and then going out and it's like Indian at home and then here's America created that black and white, and it
Right.
essentially screwed me up for years. So if we can be that voice
Mm-hmm.
for people, other people, that to support them through their journey, and then really ultimately help people just step
Right.
into their truer versions of themselves, like the ripple effect that has, I just is enormous in my mind. So yeah.
Right. Knowing that you're not alone, right,
Right.
I think has also been one of the biggest that's helped me. Like, you are not alone and you are not crazy.
Yeah,
for thinking what you think or feeling what you feel, right? Is something that helped me enormously, as I kind of went through, this last decade, essentially, of my journey. And so if even one person from this recording feels like, oh yes, like I'm not alone, it's worth it.
absolutely. Well, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for celebrating episode 1 with me. I have to use my sound effects on this amazing eCam live. And yeah, I'm excited. I just do want to share one little tidbit. Won't go deep into it, but just in honor of Dr. Ruth, we share something. That's all I'm going to say
Dr.
about it.
Ruth's passing
Yeah,
again.
Dr. Ruth's passing. So, yeah. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to do this again with you.
Absolutely. It was great. And, best wishes for you as you begin this next part of your journey. It's very exciting.
All right. Well, have an amazing day. And everyone else, subscribe. I'm just learning this. This is episode 1. Subscribe, comment, and I can't wait to share more with you.
Take care.